thank you all for hanging with us through this amazing sojourn of food. It's been wonderful to talk about everything from our passions for food and for producing food content, to the culture of food, to the ways in which food is lacking in many areas of our globe, and how many passionate people are addressing that. Many of our women on stage have built scaled businesses by addressing and sort of taking their passion and building it into a profit-driven enterprise. With Lauren, who is our, very appropriately our final thought leader, I wanted to focus on her really striking combination of entrepreneurialism, of purpose-driven activity and work, and storytelling, or sort of use of a platform for good. Feed was early, and we'll hear more specifically about the company from Lauren, but Feed was really early to the party of, wearing the brands you care, wearing the brands that support your purpose and that represent your values. That's now something we all, I think about, and we contemplate what we're putting on our, putting out in the social sphere and on our bodies, and whether that represents our values. I think Feed was really, really early to that movement. And you could wear a cool, stylish bag, and you could indicate that you were supportive of a really important organization making tangible change. So as an entrepreneur, as a really, really innovative thinker, who's made purpose and cause kind of a cool thing to be into, we welcome you. So,
thank you.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. So I'm done doing that. I know.
You're hired as my publicist.
I know.
Thank you.
And another thing about I love her shoes, and she has pretty hair. So in addition to those things, So Lauren, would you mind giving us a little bit of the history? I think your experience of going abroad, digging into other people's lives, getting out of the individual experience.
So yeah, my journey, thank you for that lovely intro. My journey to starting Feed began almost like 16 years ago, hard to believe. I was a student in college and had the kind of eye-opening, life-changing experience of traveling around the world with the UN World Food Program, and really just seeing firsthand the issue of extreme hunger, poverty, just the great disparity that exists in the world. So approximately 1 in 9 people around the world are food insecure, which means they don't necessarily know where their next meal is coming from. And just, you can hear all these overwhelming statistics about, global hunger in America. And yet it really became real for me, again, as a student, and traveling and visiting these kind of local communities and countries where this issue is very persistent. And I think for anyone, especially blessed with everything I've been blessed with, it was a shock to see that people, especially young, innocent children, were wanting for something as basic as food and nutrition. So that was the hard part. And then on the very hopeful part, I saw the school feeding program that's happening in about 62 of the poorest countries around the world. It's what our government does here in America, where kids are literally going to school and getting a free school lunch. And often this free school lunch is the reason they're going to school in the first place. It's the reason they're staying in school. It's the reason in countries where girls' education isn't valued, more of the family household income would go to educating boys, and then girls would be married off, at 13, 14 sometimes. Scary. This school feeding program, they're actually using food as a bribery tool to get girls to go to school and stay in school longer. So it's also this sort of great gender equalizer. And since I've been working with the World Food Program, starting as a student and now kind of more as a donor via Feed, it's called homegrown school feeding. So in many countries, they're trying this program where they're literally buying locally the food that is then going to the local schools in the region. So it's doubly beneficial because it's really supporting farmers and their families and their communities, as well as the kids going to school. So for me, it's just this no-brainer program. And instead of saying, I'm going to go out and fundraise, because at the time I was, again, a student, where most students are worried about getting a job and paying off student loans and setting up their own life, I thought that's not going to go well, nor is it something I personally think I'd be great at. But I really love design, and I really was interested in fashion. Just personally very torn and sort of toggling these two very different life paths. And I really created Feed because I was like, oh, I can do design, create a brand with purpose that helps be the conduit for folks to get involved in this otherwise extremely massive and overwhelming problem of world hunger and specifically childhood hunger. So that was the aha moment for Feed. And, we've had many different lives and it's evolved rapidly over the years. Retail in general, it's like every 5 minutes is something new that you have to stay on top of. But I would, for the purposes of what everyone here is passionate about, storytelling has always been at the core of what Feed is about. For me, it's about the transaction and getting folks to buy a Feed bag and give those meals. So every product, I have my show and tell, every bag we make and sell gives meals, and generally the number's like smack dab on it. So this bag, when sold, will give 50 school meals because it really costs so little to do so much. So it's possible to have that large an impact with just a single purchase. But more than anything, I want it to be, at that talking point and that reason for engagement and that reason for the individual consumer person to say, gosh, I can do something, whether it's through buying Feed or just being more aware of hunger, volunteering. Obviously, Feeding America is doing amazing work right here in our backyard that's extremely needed. So there are many different touch points. It's not just about, again, going abroad, but for me, at the heart of what I hope Feed is and will continue to be, it is the conduit for that conversation.
Yep. And I think that's so very relevant to many of the women we work with who take a passion, and the passion might be about solving a problem, a global issue. It might be about, producing a certain kind of food that is, works for children with celiac. We had a wonderful entrepreneur this morning speaking about that. Or, the challenge they're trying to address might have more to do with with health and wellness and expressing our best selves or getting over loss. I mean, there are so many wonderful passions that come out in the women content creators who we work with. I love that you took the passion, and then it's very hard to take a passion and a passion for a problem and to produce something tangible that people can relate to. How did you, I don't know if there was a moment where you said, oh, I get it, like massive global hunger, I can make a bag that's gonna crush. And it's beautifully designed. It's clearly got a design. I remember when that first came out, and it was like this awesome hipster chic. And it's maintained its brand and its look, which is super cool. Like, you definitely know how to make a brand. So many of the women we're working with here want to know how to make that brand, how to take something personal and passionate. How did you choose the typeface?
Right? So first of all, just even having the idea for Feed came from years of frustration and honestly traveling and like seeing the issue and trying to talk to my friends about it and just feeling like the optimism and like the hopefulness of people wanting to do good and like help, but not knowing how to, and then myself not knowing how to tell them how to. So it wasn't for lack of like some years of torture and thinking, what can I actually do to make a dent? In the brand part, I was actually studying abroad in Australia when I had the kind of aha moment for the Feed bag, and they were light years ahead, still are, of us in terms of reusable bags. So everywhere I'd go, everyone has like reusable bags, and it just, on the environmental front, just felt so good and so right, and something that should be more encouraged here in America. And I think we're kind of rapidly catching up to that. So the idea for the bag came from that, because we all need bags. We have many bags. We use them often. And then the brand came from like many different explorations of like, I think one of the early ones said like, this bag will feed 3 kids. Like, it was, in this, I was like, this says it, but it's a little more subtle. So finding the right balance. And we have some bags that Feed is very small, and we have some bags where it's very big. And I think it's a personal style preference too, of how big you want and loud you want it to be called out. We also have these great conversation totes now, one of which is like Woman on a Mission. Right after the election, we launched Cultivate Kindness that did really well. So just putting forth these like very, hopeful and relevant messages that my team and I feel strongly about and seem to resonate. yeah, because we all need a bit of optimism and hope these days. So I do think, though, keeping things as simple as possible in creating a brand and creating that messaging, I mean, yeah, you kind of...
It sounds like for you, it felt authentic to who you were. Like that's the design style that I see, like where it had a personal story, but it also feels very decisive in general in terms of how it was designed. It feels like again, I could be wrong. You eschewed the idea of going complex or overly detailed or fringy or anything.
Well, it felt exactly like had we launched with a patent leather bead bag, it would have felt very strange. Like the bag and the design needed to reflect like the heart and mission of what we were trying to do. So actually the initial bag, which this is based on, is burlap. It actually very much reflects the look of the bags of food rations I saw being distributed around the world. And just as a designer, I was like very inspired by that look. And hence the stampiness too was inspired by, you know, these like warehouses full of food that are being given and are often just stamped with rice.
That was where the stamp came from. That's very cool. That's really powerful.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's always kind of keeping it utilitarian, you know, for our brand and our mission, utilitarian, simple, straightforward, not fussy. It's not shiny. Even the colors we try to use are more muted or washed. It's, you know, kind of evoking a sensibility through the product design, as well as, the branding and the hang tag and all the stuff that goes along with it.
And how do you think about scale? And you chose not to be a nonprofit, is that right? You chose, let's start with that. I think it's a really interesting moment. Many of our collaborators in the She Media Network are thinking, should I go LLC? Should I be a B Corp? Should I, there's interesting models now where there's like this side investment fund or on the side of a 501c3. I think that's a fascinating and cool and very early to the party move that I think is super smart. So tell us about how your decision not to be.
It really came from the fact that we are not the giving partner. So we are here to support the World Food Program, Feeding America, No Kid Hungry. Those are our three primary giving partners. So given the fact that we're not out there giving the meals, actually I've talked to a lawyer early on who was like, well, maybe it makes more sense for you to be a for-profit that just gives away most of your or all of your profits. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So there was like the Newman's Own model that came many, many years ago, which we all grew up with. And it just felt, like this was the most straightforward way to do it. We're not out to fundraise per se. We do have this thing called Feed Supper, which I want to throw in a pitch for, which is essentially, because people would come and say, I bought a bag or I bought 5 bags, like what else can I do? And I'd say, okay, go volunteer locally, or here are giving partners, like donate to them. But they kind of kept coming back saying, but I want to do something with feed. So we created an activation called Feed Supper, where we just encourage grassroots suppers to happen in people's homes, their favorite restaurants, in their offices, in their dorm rooms. And essentially, again, because it costs so little to do so much, our tagline is food has the power to bring many together, and together we have the power to bring food to many.
Oh, nice. Tight. Good marketing.
Glad I remember that. Thank you. But very simply saying, hey, friend, come to my dinner, and instead of bringing a bottle of wine, consider making a donation. And
that's lovely and so straightforward.
Just super easy, and people want to do that, and they don't want to go to these fancy gala dinners that are
and the wine that's passed around where you're like re-gifting the one someone gave you last week, and you're like, oh God, you gave me that right when you arrive at the door.
That's so as a host, you set a meal goal. So it's like you set your goal to fundraise, and then hopefully your friends will help you get there. And again, just about engagement, and all that goes straight to Feeding America. So for a time, we did have a foundation just to like channel those funds, but we were essentially just a pass-throughs, which was fine, but we didn't need to be. So now it just literally goes straight to Feeding America. So for us, I would say, the IRS and the setting up of a nonprofit isn't always easy too, and the governance and auditing. Sometimes you have more flexibility actually as an LLC and more nimbleness. And if you're not setting out to like run the giving program yourself, I would recommend probably, looking into the B Corp model, which wasn't around when I started, but is super cool, LLC, S Corp, whatever suits your need.
Yeah, and I think it's, I've been advised, and I find it very interesting that how much more sometimes control, not to generalize, and power you can have if you are not tethered to a nonprofit infrastructure. And I think this is a totally riffing opinion, that something about being a for-profit drives a bottom line focus that often drives good decisions in terms of how you're running the business, what you're spending on, your materials, how you're contemplating staff, how you guys are focusing. It makes you look at results in a way that I think adding that impact result, because I've seen how many meals you guys have given away, and it's like hundreds of millions. And that bottom line focus can kind of cause you to be metrics oriented, that I think it can be, helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I have so much respect for nonprofits, and I think it comes down to, where your funding's coming from. If you want to raise money and ask for money and write grants and get grants, and then that's by all means, like, you should be a nonprofit. It's, our giving and our growth really depends on our sales and our bottom line.
And so you have to have the distribution, you have to contemplate space and, retail, which is tricky. So what do you think moving, clearly you've got a successful model, you've got, amazingly admirable entrepreneurial chops. Is there, I hate to say what's next, because everyone always says that, but do you see feed moving into other categories or other types of business models?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still very much learning, I would say. But I think feed, I've always thought of feed beyond bags. So definitely putting into place, launching for summer, some back to school, more kid focused items, like a lunchbox we did last year. We're bringing it back, kids' backpacks. But even more in the home category, later in the year, which we've done with different partners like Target and West Elm, but we haven't done ourselves. So that's something we're kind of working on now. I really want, feed to be the solution for customers who want to be a conscious consumer and want to give back or gift in a way where they know exactly, the impact they're having. So I think with that mission in mind, we have a lot more work to do. Yeah. We also have our first little store we opened almost 2 years ago now, but in Dumbo, and it's like a coffee shop store.
Super cute. It's right
fun.
A block from my house, and it's
good.
Adorable.
Oh, thank you.
But fashionable. It's very cool.
We're trying. But you don't need to buy, I would not encourage you to buy a bag a day, or even a month, or that's wasteful and silly. But you might buy a coffee a day, so every coffee gives a meal, every pastry gives a meal. So it's been fun to have that physical space to bring our brand to life, but also bring in customers who may not want to buy a bag or don't need to buy a bag, and that's fine. So that's been a fun new part of our business to engage folks with too.
Awesome. So maybe homeware we'll maybe see, and manufactured by you guys, which is cool, not just in collaboration. What is homeware? What is homeware? What is homeware? What is?
Well, for me, home for feed would mean things related to food. So not a pillow or a throw. It
not
would
a pan though either.
I don't think yet. No, maybe one day. But more aprons, napkins, cutting board, mugs. Things that are kind of the essential, entertaining decor for your table.
Great. And for all of us wallet activists, I think that being able to show that our spending is doing something good for the world is a wonderful entrepreneurial platform that feels like it's emerged kind of recently in our lifetime. So a couple of questions for you, and then we are wrapping it up, and everyone's going to go have a delicious... Yes,
happy hour.
I have a question. You have a question.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, Samantha.
Hi,
my name is Gail Davis. I'm actually with the UN, and I really want to thank you for the work you've done with the World Food Program. So being here, I want everyone in this room to really get what Lauren is saying and what you saw there. I am the product of a single parent who sent her children to Cornell and another college.
Woo!
All right? But thank you. But the real deal was my mother was a single parent, even though I had relatives that went to schools and college and all that. It's real right now, and it's causing problems between generations that youth have to look at, do I pay my student loan or do I eat healthy? okay? It's real in America. And they're blaming older. That's not the deal, y'all. You need to come together and work together. And what can you do at Feed America? Because, see, we talk about other countries and we want to be the saviors, but you need to get right here in America because it's happening. We all pay our cell phone bills and our rents, but we don't know how we're going to eat. And this is really real to eat healthy. So what I ask of you is to really support what she's doing and really support Feed America. There's something called the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Number 2 is feed hunger. Zero hunger. And it's not just hunger in another country. It's happening in your backyard. So if you're making $100,000, I can guarantee you, you're not able to pay some of your other bills. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Gail. Always powerful, always powerful. Yeah, we've got some really, what's been fun about our food conversation across the whole of the day is that this thing that is food and is so fundamental and that we all have great love and passion for, and it connects us, and it, in some cases, divides us, and it is at risk in the future. You know, from Amanda Little's Fate of Food conversation, it is not distributed evenly. It is a big question for many of us who don't understand where, I myself included, where we are lacking. So food is many, many things, clearly, and I'm glad that we've been able to dig in with these experts. Just so we ended on a positive note, what is your favorite, this is gonna be hard, so I'm gonna give you a minute. Some of your favorite restaurants in New York, if you have a favorite chef you wanted to toss out, or a favorite meal. And which is your favorite of your children? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Well, I'm a vegetarian,
Okay.
so that skews my, favorite chef or favorite cookbook too, Otto Lengi.
Okay.
He's not in New York, but so delicious. Plenty, heaven, everything in it. Favorite restaurant in New York?
Throw what's coming to your head. Where should I go to my anniversary?
Oh my goodness.
Don't say taco stand because it's groovy.
I was thinking carbone just because I love a good pasta. But I also love Santina, that's also Italian. I love Italian and carbs. So anything in that realm.
It's a good place. Yes.
Yes.
We have a lot of love.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are very good recommendations. And then your favorite?
Oh, actually, in V, ABC V, heaven.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
I've
heaven.
been there.
Yeah. John George. We got some fans up here.
Yes.
Yeah. ABC Kitchen too, but ABC V is vegetarian food like you've never tasted. It is so good.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
You just hook them up.
Okay, good.
That was solid. Favorite thing to cook, if you do, not to presume that any of us cook.
No, I do.
I mean, sorry.
Probably back to
Right.
Pastas.
You got a theme, girl.
I know. I like savory. Like lasagna, pasta, veggie, pasta primaveras, probably my favorite.
Okay, and who is your favorite person who works at BlogHer? No, I'm just kidding.
You. I know.
I'm just kidding. It is definitely, sorry guys, settle down. Okay, we want to thank you so much.
Thank
we are
you.
all very excited for all the work you do.
Happy hour.